Okay, this movie is about arrays and the frequency function. We're going to talk about the frequency function to begin with, explain it, and then we're going to transpose the resultant array, and then we're going to use the frequency function as a unique record count. So I've generated 20 data points, which are just random numbers actually. They're literally random numbers. I use the ran_between function to generate these numbers. And these numbers range from 100 to 150. So I set up some bins that range from 100 to 150 in 10-unit increments. And what the frequency function will do is count the number of data points that for the first bin are either equal to 100 or less than 110. And the second bin will be equal to 110 and less than 120, and so on. So the way you set the frequency function up is you select the cells that you're going to input the frequency function into, because what we're going to get is a resultant array. And I'm going to input the frequency function, tabbing that into the cell. The first argument is the data array. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory. That's this area right here, comma, and the second argument is the bins array, which is this area right here. I'm going to press Control, Shift, Enter, and I get my frequency. I'm going to center align that so we can see it a little bit better. I have 0 numbers that are either equal to 100 or less than 110. I've got 4 that are either equal to 110 or less than 120. And when I sum the count for each one of these bins, I get 20, which equals the data points. So among other things, you can use the frequency function to build a histogram. But what we're going to do is we're going to transpose this resultant array. So the area that I have as the resultant array is 6 rows by 1 column. And to transpose this, I'm going to want to choose 1 row by 6 columns. And I'm going to begin with the transpose function, and then input the frequency function, select the data array, comma, select the bins array, close the frequency function up, close the transpose function up, press Control Shift Enter, and we generate the same resultant array, only we've changed the orientation from vertical to horizontal. One of the properties of the frequency function is that when you have a bin that's defined, that's the same as a bin that's already been defined, the frequency function counts a 0 in the duplicated bin value. Because of this, we can use the frequency function to count the unique records in this data array. So that's what we're going to do next. So I'm going to input the frequency function and choose the data array. And for the bins array, I'm going to select the data array again. Because anytime the frequency function encounters a duplicate bins array value, it's going to count that as 0. And so what I'm going to end up with is a bin array that either has 0 or some count as to how many times that value is in the data array. So maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 times. We don't know. But what I want is if the resultant array generated by the frequency function we have so far has a value that's greater than 0, I want to count that once, because that's going to be a unique record. And in order for me to do some math on this resultant array from the frequency function, I'm going to need to multiply it by a double negative. And the reason I'm doing that is because the formula with the frequency function and the comparative operator will generate an array with trues and falses. And what I want to do is convert that to 1s and 0s. And the double negative will do that for me. So finally, this array, I want to sum by using the sum product function. I'm going to go to the end of the formula, close the parentheses for the sum product function, and enter, and I get 17 as a result. And we can check this by selecting the data points, copying it to a location, going to the Data tab, left-clicking Remove Duplicates, left-clicking OK, and we have 17 unique values. So that's the frequency function. We began by looking at what the frequency function is, and then we transposed the resultant array that we got from the frequency function, And then we use the properties of the frequency function to generate a unique record count from a data array.